Was Gakuen now at a disadvantage? Not quite. They had another ace up their sleeve. Momoi. She was more than just an agent. She was also Gakuen's intelligence officer. She analyzed the opposing team's data and could predict the players' development, preparing strategies and responses accordingly. Gakuen's players were well prepared. Gakuen's defense was tight, and Kagami struggled to move. He threw the ball hoping for an alley-oop, but the defense blocked his path. The ball reached Rinosuke, who tried a close-range hook shot only to have Kusuke block it. The opponents had anticipated their moves. However, Riko was not in a rush to adapt. She knew Momoi's data was based on past performances, and people can change. An element of surprise could turn the tide. Hyuga had prepared for this moment. Although skilled in three-point shooting, he had recently improved his dribbling. Facing Sakurai's defense, he planned to use a feint to shake off Sakurai before dribbling to a good shooting position. But Momoi had anticipated this too. As Hyuga made his feint, Sakurai was ready to defend. Izuki was stunned. This was Hyuga's new move, which the opponents should not have known about. This demonstrated the power of Momoi's data analysis. Hyuga had to pass the ball to Izuki, whose hawk eye expanded his observational field. At that moment, the score continued to widen. Izuki refused to be passive. He dribbled past Shoichi and passed the ball to Hyuga. Sakurai tightly guarded Hyuga, but at that moment, Kuroko suddenly appeared behind Sakurai. Taking advantage of Sakurai's distraction, the ball was passed to Kagami, who dunked it for 2 points, narrowing the score difference to 6. With just over 2 minutes left in the first quarter, there was a good chance to even the score. By the end of the first quarter, the score was 21-25. Given Momoi's strong data analysis, Riko decided to focus on Kuroko and Kagami, since their data was scarce and less likely to be thoroughly analyzed by Momoi. At the start of the second quarter, Kuroko executed a superb pass, and Kagami, waiting under the basket, quickly jumped and dunked, overpowering the defense of 2 players. However, upon landing, Kagami felt severe pain in his leg, indicating his previous injury had not fully healed. Riko quickly substituted Kagami with Shinji, despite facing ridicule. She prioritized the player's health over the game. Without Kagami, and with Momoi's thorough analysis of Hyuga's and others' tactics, attacking the inside became increasingly difficult. Hyuga and Izuki were somewhat disoriented as the score gap widened. After bandaging Kagami, Riko prepared to send him back into the game, reluctantly allowing him to play injured. Kagami didn't see playing hurt as a big deal, especially if his absence could cost them the game. However, the upcoming game would not be easy, as Daiki arrived. With 1 minute left in the second quarter, Gakuen's coach insisted on putting Daiki in. Daiki, looking defiant, was ready for a direct confrontation with Kagami. Upon Daiki's entry, all Seirin players became highly alert. The game continued with Gakuen starting aggressively. All players focused on half-court, creating a strong imbalance. This was intentional, meant to facilitate a showdown between Daiki and Kagami. Daiki easily broke through Kagami's defense, disregarding Hyuga as if he were merely a fixture. Daiki leapt for a layup, but at that moment, Kagami jumped from a standstill and blocked it, surprising Daiki with his speed. However, Daiki didn't see it as a major issue. The ball reached Hyuga, who accelerated his attack, but the opponents quickly fell back in defense. Mibuchi passed to Izuki, who found no open passing lanes. Kuroko then appeared, took the ball, and rapidly passed it to Kagami, who went for a layup. Daiki, having waited, jumped and blocked Kagami's shot. The second quarter ended with Daiki still eager for more. During the 10-minute halftime break, each team retreated to their respective locker rooms. Gakuen's atmosphere was relatively relaxed, thanks to having their ace Daiki. However, the coach still discussed strategy, emphasizing their aggressive approach. In Seirin's locker room, Kuroko impulsively requested to play the entire second half, eager to defeat Daiki. However, his misdirection passes could not last long, making his plan impractical. To calm him down, Kagami stuffed a lemon into Kuroko's mouth, reminding him that basketball is not played alone. Thus, Riko decided that Kuroko would rest during the third quarter and return in the fourth. On the court, Kagami was tasked with guarding Daiki, while the others focused mainly on Sakurai and Shoichi. After regrouping, they returned to the game, where the showdown between Daiki and Kagami officially began. At the start, Kagami faced Daiki head-on. Daiki quickly maneuvered around Kagami, who couldn't react in time, and reached the basket. Although Mibuchi and Azuki quickly shifted to defend, they couldn't match Daiki's attack speed. However, just as Daiki went for a dunk, Kagami timely blocked it. Following this, Hyuga passed the ball long distance to Kagami, who ran towards the opponent's basket. Daiki quickly followed and, at the moment Kagami dunked, returned the favor with a block. Both players were unyielding. Kagami's jump from the free throw line was unexpected, but such formal play was somewhat unfamiliar to Daiki. Breaking away from convention, Daiki used street basketball techniques to bypass Kagami's defense. With no set rules in his play, Kagami was unsure how to react. 3 players guarded Daiki under the basket, thinking they had him covered. But Daiki threw the ball over the hoop in a shot that stunned everyone. Kagami faced Daiki again, his eyes showing slight panic, while Daiki quickly passed him again and jumped in a strange posture. His clean hook shot easily scored 2 points. The ball was now with Hyuga, who attempted a 3-pointer to recover the situation. However, Kusuke had already read his intentions and intercepted in time, thwarting Hyuga's plan. Daiki, who had grown up playing street basketball, had unorthodox handling and speed that didn't conform to rigid styles. His unpredictable play style made it difficult to anticipate his moves, let alone guard against him. With Kagami's current abilities, it was hard to defend against Daiki. The ball returned to Daiki, who threw it seemingly recklessly, just to distract Hyuga while he accelerated his attack. Kagami hurried to block, and although he jumped higher, Daiki leaned back and executed a hook shot, nullifying Kagami's efforts. Hyuga, as a shooter, was amazed that Daiki's shooting form and height were never consistent, yet he never missed. Realizing he couldn't match Daiki's speed, Kagami tried to dominate in height. However, as soon as he jumped, Daiki stole the ball. Daiki then started a fast break, with Kagami desperately chasing. Even though Kagami caught up, he didn't expect Daiki to change his shooting form again. Daiki tossed the ball upwards with his right hand, sending it over Kagami's arm into the basket. After landing, Daiki taunted Kagami, telling him not to delude himself about defeating him. He also invited Kuroko to come on and settle things. With the score now 20 points apart, Kuroko entered the game, calming Kagami considerably. Upon receiving the ball, Kuroko instantly turned and executed a very long pass. Kagami caught the ball and headed towards the basket, but Daiki was close behind. Kagami then unexpectedly passed the ball backhanded to Hyuga, catching the opponents off guard due to their lax defense on him. Hyuga's 3-pointer went in smoothly, bringing hope to Seirin. Even Sakura, a fellow shooter, was impressed by Hyuga's precise and powerful shooting. Immediately after, Gakuen made a passing error, and the ball ended up with Kuroko. He quickly passed to Izuki, and Seirin scored another 2 points. Daiki realized the seriousness of the situation when Kuroko joined the game, changing Seirin's dynamic instantly. However, he was somewhat disappointed in Kuroko, seeing no difference from their middle school days, and was confident he could defeat him. In the ensuing play, Daiki easily intercepted Kuroko's long pass and then dribbled past 5 players to dunk the ball. Daiki was unstoppable, and Seirin couldn't contain him. Under his aggressive play, the score gap widened to 40 points by the 4th quarter. Then Kagami aggravated an old injury. Riko had no choice but to substitute him. Kagami sat fuming on the bench, his anger palpable even to players like Kusuke on the court. Without Kagami, Seirin's fighting spirit significantly weakened, and Kuroko's misdirection passes began to fail. Everyone on Seirin struggled greatly. Gakuen continued with their individualistic approach, and the score gap continued to widen. Mibuchi considered substituting Kuroko for Shinji, but just then, Kuroko faced Daiki. With the score far apart, Daiki urged Kuroko to give up. Kuroko replied that nothing was decided until the last second, so he would not give up. Inspired by Kuroko's determination, Hyuga abandoned the idea of substitution. However, Seirin remained very passive in the game. Despite their efforts, the score difference only grew. Finally, Daiki dunked to end the game, and Seirin lost by 60 points. Despite the loss, everyone had given their all, so there were no regrets. After the game, both teams returned to their locker rooms to pack up. Daiki won but didn't seem happy, perhaps because his opponent was Kuroko. Meanwhile, a bench player harshly criticized Kuroko's skills, which Daiki couldn't tolerate and ended up confronting him. In his heart, Kuroko still held a significant place. At Seirin, the mood was somber. There were 2 more games to play, and everyone went to warm up. Kuroko was left pondering, and before leaving, Kagami said to him that even team cooperation couldn't win against overwhelming strength. Kuroko was stunned by these words, fearing that Kagami was becoming the second Daiki and might leave the team. Kagami didn't play in the next 2 games, and Kuroko was also not in good form. They lost both games and missed the national tournament. On the way back, Riko sent a text message to someone, Teppei Kiyoshi, the founder of Seirin's basketball club and its strongest center, who had been recovering from an injury but was planning a comeback. Back at school, the team resumed their regular training, but Riko tripled the training intensity. Despite 3 consecutive losses, fortunately, the players' spirits were not affected. Kagami hasn't been to practice for a long time, and he hasn't even been seen by the trainees. Kuroko also hasn't spoken to Kagami in a long time. The last time in the locker room, Kagami said something that Kuroko couldn't help but care about. One evening, Kuroko was practicing alone in the gym when someone suddenly entered. He looked absent-minded but enjoyed playing with Kuroko Jr. This person was Teppei, who greeted Kuroko and expressed his admiration for him. He knew Kuroko was a clear-headed person, but warned that being too clear-headed could lead to pessimism. He hoped Kuroko would cheer up. The next day, Kagami appeared in the gym. Kuroko still didn't speak to him. Although Kagami participated in the training, he seemed to be back to his initial state when he first joined the team, just playing basketball by himself. Teppei, aware of Kagami's talent, thought he was misusing it and decided to challenge Kagami to a one-on-one game to test his strength and to impart some wisdom. So, would this quirky senior be able to defeat the freshman? Let's wait and see. With Teppei's return, Seirin's resurgence is just around the corner. He is a key player. Even Shuutoku's center Taisuke and sharpshooter Shintaro highly regard his abilities. Teppei and Kuroko share the same never-give-up attitude. At the Seirin gym, Kagami and Teppei's face-off continues. Teppei swiftly bypasses the defense and dunks, but Kagami quickly blocks it. This round changes both players' perspectives. Kagami is surprised by Teppei's speed, and Teppei admits Kagami's impressive jumping ability. Kagami then drives and dunks, ending the game. Teppei yields his starting spot to Kagami, who doesn't seem pleased and just walks away from the gym. Riko is unhappy with this outcome, since Teppei is a valuable veteran for Seirin. Hyuga realizes Teppei intentionally lost to motivate Kagami to stop going solo and integrate with the team. Teppei admits this, causing confusion among the team. Before summer break, a 3-day practice session for first years is planned. Teppei's actions aim to address Kuroko's secretive nature and clear misunderstandings between him and Kagami. The practice starts with Kagami telling Kuroko not to pass to him. Despite a slow scoring pace, Seirin wins, but Kuroko is not happy. Riko questions Teppei's decision to let freshmen play, but it's all for Kuroko, who thinks he's reached his limit. Teppei wants to challenge this belief. Kuroko considers becoming a bench player, feeling he hinders the team. Hyuga scolds him and urges him to talk to Kagami, who trusts him deeply. Kagami feels his skills aren't enough to maximize Kuroko's potential and wants to strengthen them. After clearing up misunderstandings, Kuroko realizes his earlier thoughts were foolish and is eager to share his true feelings with Kagami, who is practicing on the court, thinking of ways to enhance his basketball skills. He believes in maximizing his abilities to compete with the generation of miracles. Just then, Kuroko suddenly called out to him. Their meeting was a bit awkward. Kuroko struggled with his words, so Kagami suggested they play basketball while talking. Unfortunately, Kuroko was no match for Kagami, who scored 14 straight points. Kuroko was too busy playing to organize his thoughts, so he just started speaking his mind. He first apologized to Kagami for lying. Initially, he said he wanted to be Kagami's shadow for selfish reasons. He hoped to use their teamwork to defeat the generation of miracles. Kuroko, once known as the phantom sixth man of the generation of miracles, felt insignificant as their trust in him waned, and they chose to shoot rather than pass in crucial moments. This wasn't the basketball Kuroko wanted. However, after meeting Kagami and the seniors, his views changed as he experienced trust and joy in playing together. He no longer wanted to help someone become Japan's best through his efforts alone, but wanted to win together with everyone. Kagami wasn't surprised by this revelation and chose to keep trusting Kuroko, believing they would become strong enough to defeat the generation of miracles someday. Their friendship was truly enviable. Summer was approaching, and Riko and Hyuga had planned a training camp involving 2 training sessions, one at the beach and the other in the mountains. The thought itself was exhausting, but recently, Kuroko and Kagami's interactions had improved the team's atmosphere. As summer began, the team arrived at the beach. After settling in, they started a beach basketball practice. The soft sand increased the resistance to running, and dribbling was nearly impossible, so they had to run with the ball. Kuroko couldn't use the ground to pass effectively, and Kagami's favorite dunks were ineffective on the soft sand. After a morning of practice, they felt much lighter and more agile indoors in the afternoon, showing Riko's strength training was effective. The next morning, Kagami ran into Kuroko, who sported a messy hairdo by the poolside. Then, surprisingly, they encountered Shintaro and Takao, as Shuutoku was also there for training. The teams took this chance to have a practice match, but Kagami didn't play as Riko had him run errands under the guise of buying drinks. Shuutoku seemed stronger than before. Kuroko tried to dribble past Shintaro but was intercepted by Takao, who passed it back to Shintaro for a game-ending 3-pointer. Now focusing on improving his dribbling, Kuroko was mocked by Shintaro, who found it absurd that someone who couldn't fight alone talked about getting stronger. After the practice match, everyone returned to their rooms, and Kagami finally completed Riko's task of buying drinks. The convenience store was 500 meters away, and he had to run multiple trips. Riko praised the sweaty Kagami, though he returned too late and missed out on hot water for a shower, which was a bit tough. Finally, the last day of the camp arrived, and as usual, they played a practice match against Shuutoku. Despite their efforts, they still lost. During the camp, the 2 teams played 3 matches, with Shuutoku winning each time. This made Takao somewhat arrogant, attributing their previous losses to chance. However, the coach disagreed, noting that Kagami was absent from all 3 games, and Shuutoku only won by a narrow margin each time. If Kagami had played, the outcomes might have been different. Seirin is still growing, so they cannot be complacent. After leaving the gym, Hyuga and the others were summoned by Riko to the yard where ice buckets were set up to help relieve muscle soreness, a stark contrast to what looked more like a punishment. That evening, Kagami practiced alone on the court. Riko approached him, and Kagami, remembering the previous day's errand to buy drinks, complained a bit. Riko internally scoffed at Kagami's grudge-holding, despite her best intentions. She then asked Kagami to jump and touch the backboard. His jump was higher than normal. The force was so great that he knocked over the basketball hoop, nearly hitting Takao, who was passing by. The height was astonishing, reaching the top of the backboard. Riko explained that his true strength was his jumping ability. Kagami lay on the ground, pondering. However, Shintaro demonstrated that relying solely on aerial tactics wouldn't defeat them. Kagami was unconvinced and challenged Shintaro to a defense game. Shintaro agreed, stating that if Kagami scored even once in 10 attempts, he would lose. Despite Shintaro's prowess in 3-point shooting, his defense was formidable. Kagami timed his dunks well, but Shintaro consistently blocked them just before the dunk. Frustrated, Kagami wanted to continue, but Shintaro insisted that the outcome would always be the same because he knew Kagami would dunk at such heights, and Kagami lacked other shooting techniques from that position. After the match, Shintaro walked to the bushes to dismiss Takao, who had been watching for a long time. Kuroko was also there, and Shintaro told him not to disappoint at the Winter Cup, perhaps still holding some expectations for Kuroko. Displeased by Shintaro's lecture, Kagami went for a run on the beach alone. Kuroko followed to comfort him, but Kagami, ever so proud, felt no need for consolation. He understood Shintaro's point. His right leg's strong jumping force required left-hand ball control, which Kagami lacked. He realized he needed to train his lower body strength and left-hand ball handling. Hearing this, Kuroko recalled Shintaro's words about maximizing individual potential and realized that passing alone was not enough. He decided to find his own dribbling style, marking a new direction in his basketball approach. This could be his limit. Besides Kagami and Kuroko, the other team members were also training hard to turn the tide in the upcoming Winter Cup. The next day the camp ended, and the players prepared to return home. But Riko called them back. It turned out that the national quarterfinals were being held nearby. Today, Kaijo High School was facing Gakuen Academy, so Riko planned to take them to watch the game. On the bus to the venue, Shintaro asked Kuroko to relay a message to Kagami. Don't lose to anyone before losing to him. Kagami laughed, finding the challenge not so easy to meet. They soon arrived at the venue, where today's game was a showdown between Ryota and Daiki. Kagami wanted Kuroko's opinion, but Kuroko was unsure, as this was the first matchup between the two since graduating middle school. Ryota had started playing basketball because of Daiki and had never won in their frequent one-on-one games. Both players had improved, so the outcome was difficult to predict. Inside Kaijo's locker room, the players were nervous and erratic, and Captain Kasamatsu was trying hard to stabilize their emotions, though he was also very tense. The coach, usually casual in appearance, was now meticulously dressed, which was a bit unusual for the players. Kasamatsu stepped outside to get some air, followed by Ryota, who promised his captain that he would win against Daiki this time at all costs. In Gakuen's locker room, there was no sign of Daiki until the last moment, which made everyone think he was going to be late again. However, he appeared just in time, determined not to miss the game against Ryota, one of the few people he truly wanted to defeat. The teams took to the court. Ryota and Daiki exchanged a few words and tough talk. Kasamatsu appeared composed, briefing his team on tactics. With the whistle, the game began. Ryota was not only handsome, but also athletically gifted, which often left him uninterested in sports due to his high talent. It was only when he met Daiki, who was incredibly strong, that he felt challenged. Since joining the basketball club in middle school, Ryota had never beaten Daiki. But in this national competition, he was determined not to lose again. As soon as the game started, Ryota quickly bypassed Daiki's defense, but Daiki wasn't going to let him off easily. He sneaked up behind Ryota and stole the ball, passing it to Shoichi, forcing him to pass to Sakurai, who shot a quick basket that didn't allow Kaijo any chance to rebound, giving Gakuen an early 3-point lead. The ball went back to Ryota, with Daiki ready in defense. Ryota took a quick jump shot, mimicking Sakurai's earlier move, surprising Sakurai with his quick learning. However, Daiki anticipated this and jumped to slightly touch the ball, disrupting the shot. Kagami, watching from the stands, was amazed that Daiki could reach such height. Shoichi, feeling confident while dribbling, got a bit carried away, but Kasamatsu intercepted the ball mid-court and scored a 3-pointer, instantly evening the score. Kaijo wasn't one to be easily dominated. Kasamatsu then instructed the team to tighten their defense. However, Ryota was pressed down by Daiki in 2 plays, which really annoyed Kasamatsu, leading him to give Ryota a metaphorical kick to boost his performance. Because of Kasamatsu's last shot, Kaijo's morale greatly increased. At this moment, Daiki and Ryota faced off again. Ryota's defense was flawless, but Daiki used a series of feints and quickly bypassed Ryota. Unexpectedly, Ryota quickly caught up, displaying incredible speed. He performed a no-look shot that soared towards the basket. Ryota, energized, leapt and blocked the shot, leaving even Daiki stunned at how high Ryota could jump, and Ryota quipped back, reminding him that he knows Daiki best from their one-on-one games. Now, under Ryota's pressure, Daiki had to rely on Momoi's scouting reports. Meanwhile, Kasamatsu received the ball with Shoichi on defense. Kasamatsu faked a pass but then dribbled past Shoichi. In a critical moment, Kasamatsu had to shoot a fadeaway as Shoichi jumped to defend. Kasamatsu increased his shooting height, and although Shoichi was shocked, he still managed to touch the ball, disturbing the shot. However, Kaijo's Mitsuhiro fiercely grabbed the rebound and passed it to Yoshitaka, who scored a crucial 3-pointer. At the end of the first quarter, the score was 13-18, with Kaijo temporarily leading. Back in the locker room, Momoi revisited Ryota's scouting information. On the sidelines, Kagami and others felt Ryota had gotten stronger. But Kuroko didn't believe Daiki would lose, knowing Daiki tends to escalate his effort as the game progresses. Now that Ryota had provoked him, Kaijo might not maintain their advantage. The second quarter started surprisingly calm. Shoichi had the ball but was tightly defended by Yoshitaka, leading him to pass to Kusuke, who scored. It seemed Gakuen was beginning to counterattack. Kasamatsu then got the ball, quickly defended by Shoichi, but he passed to Ryota. Daiki appeared almost instantly in front of Ryota, who tried to use feints but was read by Daiki, who stole the ball. These two knew each other too well. Next, Daiki alternated hands dribbling, and although Ryota anticipated his direction, Daiki used Ryota's shifting weight against him to change direction and broke through his defense. Before Ryota could react, Daiki took a shot. Mitsuhiro jumped to defend but collided with Daiki. Despite the contact, Daiki scored, and Mitsuhiro was called for a foul. Daiki's additional free throw went in without issue, tying the score. The game continued, and the ball was passed back to Ryota, with Kaijo seeming to focus their plays on him. But Daiki was a tough opponent. Shoichi warned Ryota that mere imitation wouldn't be enough to beat Daiki. This time, Ryota tried to mimic Kasamatsu's moves, but Daiki instantly saw through it and easily blocked the shot. With 28 seconds left in the second quarter, Kaijo called a timeout, and the coach advised them not to rush their offense. This led to Kaijo being led by the nose. They needed to control the pace themselves and stabilize their interior defense. Although Kaijo was currently at a disadvantage, Ryota seemed to have a plan in reserve. It was uncertain if he could handle Daiki. Ryota continued to guard Daiki in yet another encounter today. Holding the ball, Ryota surprised Daiki by passing to Kasamatsu instead of making an expected move. Daiki was confused, wondering if Ryota was giving up, which was out of character for him. Sakurai intercepted it. Daiki realized Kaijo was taking a risky strategic shift in their play. Facing Ryota again, Ryota's eyes were filled with a fighting spirit, showing he still did not want to lose. But Daiki was indifferent. Daiki quickly maneuvered past Ryota. Kasamatsu intentionally collided with him, causing Daiki to commit a foul, nullifying the shot. This move by Kasamatsu was risky given Daiki's solid build. A wrong move could cause injury. Daiki knew Kasamatsu did it on purpose and responded with a dunk and a reverse shot, acknowledging that Kasamatsu's actions were to buy Ryota time. However, he wasn't going to give Ryota any chance to retaliate. Watching Daiki, Ryota was still drawn to him, having originally started playing basketball out of admiration for Daiki. But this admiration also made him not want to see Daiki lose, yet as a representative of Kaijo, he could not afford a loss. This contradiction troubled Ryota, but he knew that playing earnestly was the greatest respect he could offer to a competitor. At this moment, Ryota was fully determined, with a resolute look that even Kuroko noticed from the sidelines. Ryota had always restrained from emulating Daiki's playing style due to reverence, as copying a superior player is not easy. Although still not at Daiki's level, Ryota was confident he could do it. Shoichi then took the ball, closely guarded by Kasamatsu. Glancing at the scoreboard as the second quarter was about to end, confident in his ability to score, the ball smoothly went through the net. The score was now 34-43, with Gakuen leading by 9 points as they entered a 10-minute halftime break.